Hello, and in this video I'm building a hamburger roundabout, or a through-about, or a cut-through. But hamburger sounds a lot better than through-about or cut-through, and basically a hamburger roundabout is a roundabout with a central carriageway or highway going straight through the middle to allow more flow from a certain direction. So imagine, obviously a roundabout allows all areas to have equal ability to go around the roundabout, but a hamburger roundabout allows one direction to be able to cut through and be able to reach the other side without having to go around the entire roundabout and causing traffic on the roundabout. Now obviously these have to be signalised with traffic lights on them, otherwise they would not work. So this can decrease the traffic, but with a good signal system set up, it works quite well. They can also be named banana roundabouts. That's also a name they have, but they're more called banana roundabouts when the road curves in a shape that looks like a banana, I suppose. But all the stuff I found online, it's very UK orientated. Like, there's many of these built in the UK. I say many, more than the rest of the world. It seems that way, as far as I can tell. There is also a one called a hot cross bun roundabout, which is basically a hamburger roundabout, but with 2 lanes going through the centre. That's what I can tell, at least. But I couldn't really find any stuff online other than it being mentioned once. So I don't really know how prevalent hot cross bun roundabouts are. And as I was building this, I found that this works quite well in City Skylines, especially with mods. Like all the time, I'm using Traffic President with the advanced lane AI and just traffic AI in general, and it works quite well because it allows traffic picks all the lanes and uses all the roads to their full extent. If this was in normal City Skylines, it probably wouldn't work because all the traffic would hog one lane. But this is on the intersection of where 4 motorways meet, and it held up traffic pretty well. There was never a time where there was insanely bad traffic that never cleared. It all got through and all worked perfectly fine. Now obviously my design wasn't really optimized for a certain direction, because this was just a build to see what a hamburger roundabout would be like, and all I did was put it in the center of where 4 motorways cross each other. So I did do a small test to see which direction had the best, the most flow, but being just a standard map, they all had very similar flows. So the main bit of traffic that builds up is on the 2 other roads that don't have the cut-through area. But like I said, they don't ever build up to a impossible to clear point. The only problem is also the way that the game yields. Yielding doesn't work properly in this game in the slightest. Even with Traffic President, yielding, it just doesn't make sense. They don't yield properly at all. They'll even with the new system which came with mass transit, where you can add stop signs and remove traffic lights, they didn't actually add a yield in that system, which is a bit strange, but I guess it's because it just doesn't work. But everyone knows already that yielding doesn't really work in City Skylines. I was just looking at the Wikipedia article, and apparently they're very common in Spain as well, and they're called tennis rackets, which I don't know why they're called tennis rackets. They don't really look like tennis rackets, but that's what they are called in Spain. Obviously that's the Spanish to English translation. Now I'm going to talk a little bit what I'm doing in the video, but it is very basically what I do in a lot of videos, and what a lot of YouTubers do is I'm just moving the roads with Move It, trying to get the lanes like perfectly angled so that there's a nice sweeping curve to allow the fastest possible movement of traffic. And I'm obviously going through with traffic president and trying to get the perfect balance of removing the ability for traffic to stop at junctions. The only problem with that is on a traffic light controlled junction, if you do it, the traffic will drive through the traffic light even if it's red, but only up to a point. I've noticed that the traffic will drive, and if it's red and they're moving and they're within 10 meters, they'll drive straight through it. Even if it's red, like it's just changed, they'll just drive straight through, and it will cause the traffic which is coming from the other traffic light to have to slow down, and the car slowly works its way through the line of traffic and then goes. But I guess that's just a problem with trying to use something where it wouldn't really be used. But that's what you've got to use on like the main arteries of a roundabout to make the traffic move, because otherwise the traffic tends to build up on the entrances to the roundabout, causing massive amounts of slowdown, because the traffic is constantly it's checking if the junction ahead is clear, and if there is a car in it, or if there is like the tiniest sliver of a car in that junction, it will stop and wait and wait and wait and wait, and just then it will go. It's very slow. So if you want to do complex junctions and complex stuff like that, you basically need to enable traffic to go into the junction when it is not clear. It's especially needed when there are multiple junctions very close to each other, because otherwise it would it checks the one in front, which I've noticed, because if there are two junctions next to each other, the car will check the one and then it will know to check the one in front of that. And so if there is any in either of those junctions, any cars, it will basically stop and not bother to go. So there I was placing down a lot of lines, a lot of the markings for a roundabout, but we're going to skip ahead because you've seen it all before, just doing lines with the prop line tool. And so now we get to designing the middle of the roundabout after I've placed all the lines, and as you can see there, I've placed the yellow hashed areas which you do not enter unless clear. And this design, I wasn't really sure what to do with the middle design. In the end it turned out alright, but there aren't many designs for roundabouts like on a motorway or on a highway. Like, you can get quite fancy ones on small roundabouts and even medium size, and when they get too big they just tend to stick grass in them and maybe a little bit of foliage. But I thought I would just go to the not to the extreme, but to the next level of just designing a small a small area that has foliage and is quite nice to look at when you drive through. You see all this nice plants. You can't really see the, I suppose, the red, but the red's mainly just there as like just paths for the people who maintain the foliage to walk around and water and like groom. It's not called grooming when you prune, like pruning plants and stuff like that. I make a small building where I imagine they keep a lot of their supplies and like lawn mowers and hedge trimmers and stuff like that. That was my idea behind the building I built. So we skipped ahead a bit to when I've placed a lot of the generic bushes and trees, and I'm going to go into a bit about my idea behind foliage placement, because people have asked in the past, and a couple of people have asked recently. But the problem is, I don't really fully know what I'm doing with foliage. Like I watch a lot of other YouTubers, and some of them really know what to do with foliage. Like, they really understand. But my basic level is what I do is I start off with low bushes, low shrubs, Padelmo's flower bushes, I think they're called. They're great for this. I put them in like clusters and corners, and then I'll add another colour around that cluster, and maybe another colour in another corner just out the way, and then fill in the space in between with taller bushes, maybe some clusters of bushes that Padelmo has released. And then to finish it up, a couple taller trees, maybe some ones that hang over big areas just to cover up the area. But that's really the general idea. There's not much behind it. Also, I didn't say outline the area where you're placing the bushes, because in real life, either the place where the bush will be placed will have been sunken, or be slightly raised, or will have a bush going around the edge. So that's mainly what I do, because it is quite hard to sink small areas in City Skylines because of the way the terrain works. I basically place bushes around the edge, and that acts as a wall to like contain the foliage. So I'm not sure if that really made any sense to anybody, but that's the general gist of how I do foliage. So as we come to the end, there's not really much more to talk about, because this video is going to end in the next, 3 minutes? So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.